coming to you live from Clemson, South Carolina. Welcome everybody to the first ever Kos Sports Show. I am your host, Andrew Costner, and today, we're going to be talking about college football because college football is finally back, and I am so excited right now. I'm going to be giving you my predictions for the 2017 season, as well as also my Week 1 predictions as well. And a little extra, I'll also throw in some thoughts from Week 0 from the college football season, because there was a couple little interesting things, I guess you could say, from that part as well. But before we go any further, I want to give my thoughts and prayers out to the people in the southeastern Texas area, the Houston area, because I mean they've had Hurricane Harvey has been very devastating there. Last I checked, I believe 18 people have been declared dead because of this storm, and my thoughts and prayers go out to all the victims affected by this storm, and I hope that they can recover from this quickly, and also hope that they are coming together as one to help bring the city together. And but yes, my prayers, thoughts and prayers do go out to the city of Houston and the surrounding areas who have been affected by this flooding out in southeastern Texas. Anyway, so now off to the my Week 0 thoughts here. So there were 5 games that we had. Honestly, the most interesting, at least in my opinion, was South Florida at San Jose State. You know, South Florida actually got down 16-0 at one point in this game. But I mean, they went on and won 42-22. But it makes me wonder if South Florida, well, is this going to be the team we see all year? Will they take time to get going? In certain games, and could that end up hurting them? Of course, yes, they have an easy schedule this year, but it's against a team like Houston, you know, they might not be so lucky as far as I'm concerned there. But you know, of course, Quentin Flowers and company got it going in the second quarter where they scored 28 unanswered and just ran away with it. My second most interesting game, surprisingly, was actually Hawaii and UMass. Yes, I went and found the highlights of that just because I wanted to see what was going on with there. And actually, Hawaii scored with 48 seconds left in this game to knock off UMass. So, I mean, I'm not saying Hawaii's going to do any big things, but it was a good little thing to watch as far as highlights go. Definitely the closest game overall this year, or this in Week 0. And then, of course, we had Stanford just run all over Rice down in Australia, in the Sydney Cup down in Australia. I mean, no, everyone was predicting that though, but I do think Stanford may be better this year than I originally thought. It looks like, even though they don't have Christian McCaffrey anymore, they may be headed in the right direction as far as their offense goes. They looked very good, but of course it is Rice, so we will see as the season goes on. And then, of course, also we had Colorado State and Oregon State. You know, Colorado State, they scored a lot of points in that game, but honestly, I still don't think they're going to do anything like special here. I think they will be a solid team. I don't think they will win the Mountain West, but I think they good start for them in their new football stadium. Oregon State, I think it's going to be the same as last year. You know, and just kind of pretty poor season overall though. Then also, of course, our last one, BYU against Portland State. You know, this game was closer than I thought it would be, and that's a little concerning if you're BYU. If you're letting Portland State hang around, that's quite concerning. You know, it makes me wonder going into this game against LSU this week how good they how much of a fight they will put up against LSU. I think LSU is going to win this game pretty comfortably, but I'm not worried they might get run out of the stadium. I mean, that was a little bit concerning in my opinion. But anyway, enough of that. So enough of that. We will go on now to the preseason AP top 25, and of course, I'll run through it here. So we had 1 Alabama, 2 Ohio State, 3 Florida State, 4 USC, 5 Clemson, 6 Penn State, 7 Oklahoma, 8 Washington, 9 Wisconsin, 10 Oklahoma State, 11 Michigan, 12 Auburn, 13 LSU, 14 Stanford, 15 Georgia, 16 Louisville, 17 Florida, 18 Miami, as in Miami, Florida, not Miami, Ohio, if anyone actually was going Miami, Ohio. 19 South Florida, 20 Kansas State, 21 Virginia Tech, 22 West Virginia, 23 Texas, 24 Washington State, and 25 Tennessee. Now, as I look at this, I think they got honestly the top 5 right. I think that Alabama honestly deserves to be number 1. I mean, it just seems like they don't have to ever rebuild. They always reload under Nick Saban. That seems like how it's always been. And, well, I mean, the one thing I will kind of scratch my head at is how Ohio State got to be number 2. I think that they were, a top 5 team, but I think I would have put Florida State ahead of them, and maybe even USC as well. Just because, I mean, we saw what happened to them in the Fiesta Bowl last year. Clemson just ran them out of the stadium. I mean, it was ugly. It was 31-0. I mean, shoot, that was the first time Urban Meyer had been shut out in his coaching career. I mean, that is insane. I mean, a guy like Urban Meyer, I mean, that just makes me wonder what's in store for Ohio State this year. I mean, I personally don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. I mean, yes, they lost a lot in their secondary, and of course, in my opinion, they lost their best offensive playmaker in Curtis Samuel to the NFL draft. But we will see as time goes on. Clemson being at 5 and the defending national champions, I think that's a fair spot for them. They did lose a lot, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. Of course, Deshaun Watson, Wayne Gallman, and Mike Williams, and Jordan Legan. Of course, on defense, Ben Boulware and Jadar Johnson and Cordray Tankersley and Carlos Watkins. But I think also for Clemson that they have their defenses, I think, could be even better than last year, because in my opinion, they will have the best defensive line in the country. That is not even a debate in my opinion. I mean, I think Alabama will be a close second, but I mean, when you look, you got Christian Wilkins, Dexter Lawrence, Cleveland Farrell, Austin Bryant. That is a great starting defensive line. And I know that they are going to do good at coaching because Brent Venables is one of the best defensive coordinators in the country, and I think he will do a very superb job of getting that defense ready to go. They could arguably be the best defense in the country this year. As far as offense goes, they have Kelly Bryant coming back, or as their starting quarterback, but we'll see how that goes. I think he'll be more of a game manager, but like I said, Clemson's a good 5 for the national champions. Penn State at 6. Honestly, I think Penn State could, win the Big Ten. They're a very good team. I think everyone's sleeping on Penn State, especially after we saw last year. I think everyone just kind of wrote them off after they lost to USC in the Rose Bowl. I'm not writing them off. I mean, they were a couple plays away from winning that Rose Bowl. I mean, if Trace McSorley hadn't thrown that interception late in the game, who knows? We could have gotten to overtime, and Penn State could have been winning that football game. I mean, they're a very good team, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It is great to see them back and doing as well as they are in the college football world. I mean, James Franklin, he has done a tremendous job over there and done bringing this program back from the dead. I'm very happy to see Penn State back. And also, with speaking of bringing back from the dead, USC with, Clay Helton. He has been a great coach at USC, in my opinion. But here's the thing. Remember the last time that USC was ranked in the top 5 was under Lane Kiffin. And we all know what happened that year. They went 6-7. They just they fell apart. I mean, back when they had Matt Barkley. I do think this season will be different for them because I think Helton is a better coach, but you never know. I mean, I kind of have that sit in the back of my head about USC. I mean, I want to say that won't happen again, but you also never know. And as far as teams that I think are also ranked too high, I will say, why is Texas in the top 25? This team last year went 5-7, and honestly was pretty dang poor last year. I don't even know what to say to that. I mean, yes, there's a lot of hype with Tom Herman coming in, and of course he had a lot of success at Houston. Of course, won the Peach Bowl 2 years ago, and they played very well last year, beat Oklahoma, and beat Louisville. But I just don't see it in his first year. These aren't his recruits. These are Charlie Strong's recruits, and I think Charlie Strong did have some good recruits, and I think he wasn't given enough time at Texas. But I also think that Tom Herman won't be able to turn this program around that quick at Texas. I think this is a little bit more on the hype train. I'm currently not buying it, but they could always prove me wrong. We will see. I think you got to give it 2 or 3 years, and hopefully Texas doesn't do what they did to Charlie Strong and just give him the boot so quick, because I think Tom Herman's going to be a great coach. Of course, he's an Texas alum, and then we'll see what happens, though. But as far as another team I'm a little iffy on is Oklahoma State being a 10. I know everyone's talking about Mason Rudolph and James Washington and that offense, but here's the problem. If they make it to the playoff, they will probably have played a defense nowhere close to as good as they won in the playoff. And in my opinion, they could possibly get destroyed. It would. Here's the thing I don't like about the Big 12 is they don't play defense. Yes, sorry people who love the Big 12. No offense, they don't play defense. I mean, everyone knows that. I mean, they get a lot of times you get points in the 70s and 60s, and I mean that's just like typical in the Big 12. And I mean, don't get me wrong, but I'm an offensive guru. I love watching offenses, but that's a little bit ridiculous. In all honesty, but we'll see. I think they're maybe a tad overhyped. I think still Oklahoma is easily going to be the favorite to win the Big 12 in my opinion, but I will see. I need to watch probably more of Oklahoma State this season to see honestly how they will do. And then another kind of little maybe a surprise was or was Kansas State, but then of course I do realize they ended the year on a 4-game win streak, and they do have a lot of guys coming back on that team. I'm not saying they will win the Big 12. I think they'll be maybe finish third. You know, you never know. I mean, we just need to see what we will see as the season unfolds. But if there's any other teams that I think maybe are overhyped, really that's really none. I think honestly the AP besides Texas and maybe Oklahoma State. I think, and maybe Ohio State just a tad too high. I think overall they did a very good job on getting this right. But anyway, that's just my thoughts on that. So now everyone's probably wondering, what are my playoff predictions? I had to actually think about this a while because there's a couple locks. There's one lock in my opinion, honestly, and that is Alabama, because until someone beats Alabama in the SEC championship game, I will I honestly can't pick against them. I mean, they're almost an automatic lock. What's their toughest? I mean, the SEC besides Bama? Every team had at least 4 losses in the SEC last year, and honestly, I think it's starting to become, as far as SEC conference goes, Bama and everybody else. Like, everyone loves to talk about SEC conference, but no offense to the SEC fans, but when was the last time anyone did anything besides Auburn or Alabama? Like, you got to go back to Urban Meyer when he was at Florida in, 2008 season. And honestly, it's become a 2-horse race. Someone else needs to, needs to step it up. Okay, I take that back. LSU, of course, had that one season where they were amazing on defense and had Tyrann Mathieu, and all those other good defensive players who are playing now on Sundays. But, I don't think until someone gives Alabama a run for their money in the SEC, it's kind of hard to just not put them as an automatic lock to get into the college football playoff. And here, now as far as the other 3 teams go, my other 3 are going to be Penn State, Washington, and Florida State. Now, hear me out though on the Washington, because I know a lot of people. Or my friend, some of my friends who are big USC fans will be wondering, why are you picking Washington over USC? Here's why I can't pick USC just yet. And that's just, I can easily switch this. It's because of course, like this situation where they were ranked this high last time and we saw what happened. Do I think this will probably be a different time, or a different turnout this time? Absolutely. But it's that thing is still sitting in the back of my head. At the preseason, I can't do it. As much as I would love to pick USC, I really can't. I think there's a good chance they can make it in there, but we will see as time goes on. And as far as Penn State, I mean, these are the defending Big Ten champions. Honestly, I still think they got screwed last year and should have been in over Ohio State, because they beat Ohio State head-to-head and won the Big Ten championship. The only thing you could say is, they had one more loss. Okay, congratulations. That should have still mattered head-to-head and big conference titles like that. I just remember just the committee just preaching so much about that, and then all of a sudden, nope, we're gonna put Ohio State in, and of course I think they realized they messed up there. I think Clemson versus Penn State or Clemson versus Washington would have been a better game, but we will see as time goes on. I think though they're just gonna get better this year. James Franklin is doing a very good job over at Penn State, and I honestly think they will win I actually think they will win the Big Ten championship again. And so we'll see as that goes on. And then also Florida State. I mean, Florida State, They've got a lot of guys coming back, but here's the one thing that I'm still wondering about Florida State is their offensive line. Will they be better than last year? Because last year, God, they were awful. I mean, I personally was at the Clemson-Florida State game down in Tallahassee, and I just watched DeAndre Francois take shot after shot. I mean, I honestly don't know how this dude still hasn't gotten, can actually stand up straight still. Like, he took so many shots last year, but kudos to him. He's a tough cookie. But, you know, I'm going to assume that their offensive line is better this year. But that's going to be the one iffy for Florida State. But I think it will get better, and I think they will win the ACC. If there's any loss they will have, it will be either to Alabama in the opener, which I kind of do think that will happen. Alabama is just really good. Or it's just like, it's kind of hard to go against them right now. And maybe at Clemson. And because everyone will bring up maybe, but that one time they were in Clemson, they won 51-14. But then we saw last time they were there and they lost. And of course, Clemson has a 2-game win streak on Florida State. Oh, man, shoot, I don't even remember the last time that happened, honestly, but we will see. And then as far as contenders go, I'm going to put USC in there, of course, because I do think there's a good chance they could get in there. Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin is here sitting under the radar. They've been overall a very good team the last couple of years. Of course, made it to the Big Ten championship game last year and lost some close games to Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. They could have almost been in the college football playoff if they weren't for a couple of plays. But also, they need to get over that hump. But I think there's a chance they could do that. And then also Ohio State, of course, you got to leave them in there. I mean, they've been in the playoff 2 out of the 3 years it's been around. Of course, won the first one. And you can never count out Urban Meyer. And JT Barrett's still a quality quarterback, and I think Urban Meyer will do a good job of coaching. I don't think he's ever going to let himself be shut out again as a head coach as well. And then also I'm going to put Clemson in there, of course, the defending national champions. If they can get that offense going, even with a new quarterback in Kellen Bryant, and they have to replace a lot of other pieces on offense, they can be very good. Because we know that defense is going to be very solid under Brent Venables, and I know that their offense will eventually get it together. It may take a little time, and they may have a couple of losses, and it may hurt them going into the college trying to get into the playoff, but you never know with them as well. And, as far as maybe, I can't really say anybody else in the SEC because I need someone else to give Bama at least a fight. I mean, not have the second best team in the SEC have 4 losses. And then as far as or anyone else in the ACC, now I'm not going to say no Louisville because Lamar Jackson's a great guy to watch, but he just does not have, I don't think, the pieces around him to be the quality quarterback or to have Louisville be an elite team. I think Lamar Jackson is a great player. Do I think still he should have won the Heisman last year? No. I think Deshaun Watson personally should have won it because he was more consistent as the season went on. Lamar Jackson kind of fell apart as the season went on, but that's not another story. I can rant about that all day long. It's not going to change the fact that Lamar Jackson won the Heisman. Congrats to him, and I still think he is an electric playmaker. But as far as that goes, so once again, my 4 teams into the playoff. This is not in any order, by the way. I'm not going to bother doing that because it's way too early to figure that out. Alabama, Penn State, Washington, Florida State. And if anyone wants to disagree, I am also very open to everyone's opinions, and I'm not going to try and bash you for yours. I'm very keen to see what your reasoning is for having different teams in as well. So feel free to comment below if you think that should be someone else in the playoff and one of the ones I've chosen. All right, now let's go to the conference breakdown. So first off, we're going to start with the ACC, home of the defending national champions and the Clemson Tigers. Even though I don't have them picking the ACC, I think they will still do well in the ACC. I don't think they will finish ahead of Florida State as much as I would love to. I actually go to Clemson in case anyone didn't know. I don't think they will be better than Florida State this year. I do think they will finish second in the Atlantic behind Florida State, and I think Louisville will be third. It's, of course, going to be a 3-horse race, but the real question is what about the Coastal? I mean, the Coastal, a lot of people I hear saying is up for grabs, and I honestly agree with them. I mean, there's 3 teams, in my opinion, that come to mind when it comes to the ACC Coastal this year, and that's going to be Virginia Tech, Miami, and then some people may have under the radar, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has this thing, I think, under Paul Johnson where they're good every 4 years, And I think it's to that point now where it's about that time where for them to be good again, or actually, no, that'd be next year. But I think they're going to get better. And I think there's a good chance they can make it into that ACC championship game. Of course, we saw the last time they were there, they almost knocked off Florida State. And I think there's that's wide open. There's not like any, in my opinion, strong favorite. But I think, though, overall, I think Virginia Tech is going to win it because I think Justin Fuente as a coach there has done very well at getting that team together after Frank Beamer. And I think he's bringing them back to what they were in the from like 2000 to 2010, where that team was dominant in the ACC over almost everybody. And we will see though as time goes on. But I think in the ACC championship game, it will be Virginia Tech against Florida State, and I think Florida State will win that as well to make it to the playoff, as you can see, probably tell by my predictions. There was a sleeper, I would say though, from the other ones I mentioned. Maybe NC State, because, they did give Clemson a run for their money. Of course, when they played Louisville and Florida State, they got their butts handed to them. But we will see as time goes on. And then, of course, now we'll go on to the Big Ten here. So we got, of course, the defending champions in Penn State. That was a great conference championship game also last year. I think... Penn State just showed everyone that they are the real deal and they are here to stay. They do not quit. That's one thing I loved about watching that Penn State team in general. They would get behind and they just always seem to find a way to come back. But we will see though as time goes on. Of course, the loss to Michigan last year. I think if that had been after the Ohio State win, I don't think that would have happened. I think there's a good chance they could have beaten Michigan. But they're still going to be my picks to win the Big Ten, as you can probably tell with me having them in the playoff. Because, they just have a lot coming back. I mean, of course, minus Godwin, that receiver not going. But their offense is going to be insane. Saquon Barkley and Trace McSorley on the offensive side, they're just going to be ridiculous, in my opinion. I think this could be arguably, you could say this might be end up being one of the best offenses in college football this year. But we will see as time goes on. I think in all honesty, though, it's going to be a repeat of the Big Ten championship game with Wisconsin winning the West. I mean, Wisconsin's just been here time after time, and I just don't. And the West is just so much weaker as well as the East. I think that if there's anyone who can give them a run, it will be Nebraska, but I just don't see it, though, in all honesty. I think Wisconsin's got a lot of good players coming back, and there's a good chance. And their defense is always very strong. So we will see as time goes on, but. A lot of people saying, why not Ohio State? Why not Michigan? Well, Michigan just lost, in my opinion, way too many guys to be competing. But we will see as time goes on. But you look at what all they lost. Players like Jake Butt and Jabril Peppers, just to name a few. I mean, I could go on and on. There's a lot more. Just not that I can think of. Not as many. And Lamar Darbo. I mean, there's just a lot of players off that they lost. So. We'll see as time goes on. I think they will still be competitive, but I don't think they will be as good as they were last year, where they were very close to making it to the Big Ten championship game. You see, if they beat Ohio State, they'd be in there, and who knows? They would have been in the college football playoff potentially over Ohio State. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Now, it's Ohio State. I've heard a lot of people saying all the hype. I just don't see it. I think there's a good chance they can end up going 9-3 or 10-2. But, like I said earlier, never count out Urban Meyer. So we will see as time goes on if they can compete as well. I think, though, they are not going to make the playoff. Heck, they could honestly finish below Michigan as well. I know a lot of the Ohio State fans here and there are going to be like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. But we will see as time goes on. There's probably a good chance that won't happen. I think, honestly, they will. But I think it's Penn State's division that will lose. Even though it's definitely the tougher of the two divisions in the Big Ten, I think it's Penn State's division to lose for sure. And I think the Penn State will beat Wisconsin in the rematch in the Big Ten title game and make it to the playoff as well. Now, as far as the Big 12 goes, who's just going to beat Oklahoma? That's my real question. When was the last time Oklahoma even lost a conference game? They went 9-0 last year, of course. They started off the season very rough. They started off 1-2 at one point when they got their butts handed to them by Houston and Ohio State. I don't think they'll be. There's a good chance they will lose to Ohio State at Ohio State. I honestly just don't know right now. I'll have to see both of these teams play in week 1. This made me get a little more better feel of how they're going to play. Of course, Oklahoma's only playing UTEP, but Ohio State will be more tested at Indiana. But if there's any team who will, in my opinion, or who will compete against them, I think it will be Oklahoma State. I mean, I don't think necessarily that they will surpass Oklahoma, but and everyone's saying like, oh, why are you all of a sudden you hyping up Oklahoma State? You were just saying, oh, they were ranked too high. I was saying they were ranked too high. I'm not saying they shouldn't have been in the top 25. I think maybe they were just maybe 5 or 6 spots too high. But if they can get somewhat of a defense, which is hard to come by in the Big 12, don't get me wrong, they will. There's a good chance that they could end up beating Oklahoma and potentially, because remember the game is this year in Stillwater, so that will certainly help them. And their I believe their non-conference schedule is pretty easy as well. I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head, but let me check here real quick. I believe who all are they playing? Let's see here. I think they will, but I do think, though, overall in the Big 12 play, though, I think if they lose to anybody, it will be Oklahoma. But we'll see here as time goes on. I will, pardon me as I pull up the schedule here real quick. Yeah, they're okay. Actually, you never know. They could honestly lose to Pittsburgh. I take them back. And I forgot they are playing Tulsa. I think they'll probably, honestly coast through all those games. I mean, yes, Pittsburgh did beat Penn State and Clemson last year, but they lost a lot as well. I don't think that will happen again, but we'll see as time goes on. But if there's any team that could also maybe come in there, is Kansas State. I think Kansas State being up there at 20, I think that's honestly respectable the way they finished the year off last year, and they have a lot of guys coming back. And some people are like, what about West Virginia? I don't know. West Virginia is kind of like, yes, they have Will Grier coming in for Skylar Howard, who was a solid quarterback, but I don't know, honestly, West Virginia. They started off the year so hot, but then Oklahoma came in on a snowy game in Morgantown and just ran away with it. So it's kind of hard to tell with West Virginia. But we will get a good feel of how good West Virginia is in Week 1 when they play Virginia Tech in Landover at FedEx Field. But it should be a good game. But I honestly, right now, I'm still going to go with Oklahoma as the favorites to win the Big 12. I also, going back to earlier, put them in my contenders for the college football playoff. I don't think the Big 12 necessarily will get in, but it does help now that they do have that Big 12 championship game between whoever is in first and whoever is in second. But we will just see as time goes on. As far as that goes. And then also now going on over down to the Pac-12. I mean, of course, we have the defending champions in Washington from there when they beat Colorado in a game that, honestly, Colorado shouldn't have been in. They just got a little bit of the luck of the draw, but then they got Washington just killed them. And what was it, 41-10, I believe, last year? Yes, that is correct. And but I mean, I will say this though: the North is a lot stronger than the South. The South, I mean, who are you going to have to compete against USC? What, probably maybe Utah? I mean, yes, Utah beat them last year, but that was before Sam Darnold just went off and just was starting to run everybody by, or have everyone go, or just blowing by everybody, at least throwing with his arm. I mean, it was crazy. All of a sudden, once Sam Darnold came in to see what he could do, I mean, this is crazy to think that same year USC played Alabama in Dallas to start off the year and just got destroyed. Everyone just kind of like wrote them off, and I think USC and Clay Helton took offense to that, and they came back and did a very good job of finishing off the year with the Rose Bowl win. But like I said, I still think a lot about this, like with Lane Kiffin when he was there. I think Clay Helton is a better coach, though. I will say that. Lane Kiffin is definitely not as good of a coach as Clay Helton is. But until I need to see them play a couple games. Of course, Week 2 we will see them host Texas, and that game could be very interesting, I think. But I think USC should honestly win that game if you look at talent and talent comparison. But we will see, though, as time goes on with that. But Washington still, I think there's a good chance that they could beat them. everyone's kind of like written them off because all of a sudden, oh, USC is back. Oh, yeah, so they're going to definitely win the Pac-12. I think Washington's going to feel a little bit disrespected. I mean, to be like, hey, we're the Pac-12 or defending Pac-12 champions over here. Like, give us a little bit of respect over here. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone just also written them off after when they got blown out by Alabama. But I think that game where they lost to Alabama in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl was a little closer than we all thought. They had a couple turnovers that killed them, but I mean their defense held Alabama pretty well. But I do think they also lost a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball, which will definitely hurt them in the long run. But Jake Browning coming back, what's his name, the running back for them, Myles Gaskin coming back. What was it? Pettis coming back at wide receiver. I think there's a good chance this offense could do very well, just like they did last year. Chris Peterson is coming to the Big 12 and exceeded, I think, what everyone thought he would do. I mean, we saw what he did at Boise State, and it didn't take him long to come to Washington and do the same thing. So I'm very interested to see how that goes. But I do think it will be a USC-Washington Pac-12 title game with USC winning. Or actually Washington winning. My apologies for that. If there's any team, though, that could give them a run for their money, though, I think it will be Stanford, at least in the North. Stanford, I think, will be more consistent. At the beginning of the year, they were just trying to find their identity. Of course, we saw when they went up to Seattle to play the Huskies, and Washington just ran them out of Seattle and said, never come here, basically just said, never come here again, or this will happen again. I mean, I've never seen Stanford get blown, or at least in the longest time, have not seen Stanford get blown out like that. That was very insane. Of course, they came back at the end of the year very strong on, 6 or 7 game winning streak. They played very well down the stretch. And, of course, remember, they did beat USC, but this was, I think, also when USC was still trying to find their identity as well. Well, when looking for Sam Darnold. And maybe Washington State as well. Of course, their offense, with their passing attack, is going to be very good in my opinion with Luke Falk. But will their defense be able to bail them out as well? I don't think so. Honestly, I think that they just won't be able. Their defense won't be able to make enough stops as the season goes on to give them a shot at the Pac-12 North. But I could be wrong. We will see as time goes on. Also, people are wondering, how will Oregon do? They got South Carolina's new head coach. I'm trying to remember his name off the top of my head. But I think Oregon, there is a good chance that they could have a bounce back year. I think they could go 9-3 or 8-4. You know, they've got a lot of good talent up there, and of course, I mean, it's crazy to think 2 years ago, or 2 or 3 years ago, they were in the national championship game against Ohio State with Marcus Mariota, and how here they are, they're coming off a 3-9, 4-8 season. That's just it's crazy. I honestly don't even know what to tell you. Oh, and by the way, their head coach's name, of course, from South Florida, is Willie Taggart. I think he will do a good job at Oregon. Very similar scheme to what they had before under God, I can't remember their coach that they hired. Similar spread offensive scheme, though. I think they'll be very competitive, and they will have a bounce back here. I don't think they'll necessarily win the North, but I think they'll be a lot more competitive and have a winning record and make it to a bowl game at least. And as far as anyone to compete with USC, though, in the South, maybe Utah. I do hear a couple things maybe about Arizona State, and I just need to watch maybe Arizona State play a little more before I can maybe honestly go back and maybe say that. Of course, they have the legendary now Zane Gonzalez, who became the all-time points leader in NCAA history last year, so congrats to him. But we will see as time goes on with that as well. But yeah, so like I said, USC Washington Pac-12 championship game, and as of right now, I think Washington will win that. Of course, that is always subject to change as the season goes on, because I need to watch some of these teams first. Like, this is based off what I've seen basically off of last year, who's all lost and who, how the teams finished as well, and who all's coming in as well. But and all this stuff is going to be likely to change. All right, now let's go to the SEC. Of course, I've already been on a little bit of a rant there with saying who's going to compete with Alabama, and I'm still going to ask that same question again: who's going to compete with Alabama? I mean, of course, like the East is still kind of whack. I mean, yeah, Florida keeps making it there every year, but like, what, they go and play Alabama and then they just get killed. I mean, ever since Urban Meyer, Florida has not been the same team. I mean, what, they made it to the Sugar Bowl that one time, and then they got beat upset by Louisville and Coach Charlie Strong at the time, who was at Louisville. And then Texas came and snagged him. But if there's any team I think that can maybe give Alabama a run for its money, there's two actually. It's going to be Auburn, who has Jared Stidham coming in as a transfer from Baylor, who else some people have even heard say he may win the Heisman. I think that's a little bit bold, considering that last time we thought Auburn quarterback and Jeremy Johnson would win the Heisman. Auburn was awful. But you also never know. It could be a different tale for Auburn. I think their defense is going to be very strong like it was last year, and they do have a very strong running back tandem. And it was Johnson and Petaway, if I remember correctly. And I think Stidham will do a better job for this offense. I think this will be the best quarterback they have had since Nick Marshall. So we will see, though. I don't necessarily think they will beat Alabama, but if there's the other team I think that could be is Georgia. And the reason I say Georgia is Kirby Smart's second year. I think he's going to be the best of the Saban descendants, because his defense last year overall was very solid. Remember, last year was really none of his recruits. They were all freshmen. This was like Mark Richt's leftovers. And as much as I loved Mark Richt growing up as a diehard Dog fan, he left UGA in terrible shape. It was bad. Their offensive line last year, that might have been the only offensive line that was worse than Florida State's last year. But I think there's going to be a dramatic improvement in the offensive side of the ball. Jacob Eason's, of course, second year in the system. Well, I think he will be the starter, and Nick Chubb will finally, I think, be healthy and have, with the offensive line, I think, getting better. He will be able to have a breakout season. Heck, you never know. He could win the Heisman even. Of course, we were talking about that 2 years ago before he broke his leg. But we will until someone though beats Alabama. I don't think, which I don't think will be this year. I think if any team comes to it closely, it'll be Georgia, as they continue to improve, and their recruiting classes seem to be getting better and better and better under Kirby Smart. And I think that everyone was kind of like with Georgia with Rick. It was getting to the point, 9-3, we're solid with that. I don't think Kirby Smart's going to be okay with that. I think he's going to do everything he can to get better and better and better at Georgia. And I think it will be Alabama and Georgia in the SEC title game, but I think it will be a case where Alabama again runs away with it. I think but Georgia will stay ahead of Florida this time and finally come through and beat them in Jacksonville. Even though with Florida under McElwain, even though they haven't done that yet. And some people are saying, so what about Tennessee? I mean, Tennessee, of course, is 25 in the AP poll. I don't know. I mean, I need to see how their quarterback play is first, because, I mean, you lost a great leader in Josh Dobbs, who is now playing on Sundays in the NFL. Also, I believe they lost a lot on the defensive side of the ball as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Butch Jones and company will recover down at Tennessee from all the players they lost, but we'll see. I think, though, they will finish third, though, behind Georgia and Florida. And then, as far as, what about LSU in the West? I think they need to get a passing attack first. If Ed Orgeron can get somewhat of a passing attack to take the pressure out the running game and Darius Geis at LSU, they can. They could maybe give a run, but because the last couple of times they played Bama, I mean, last year they didn't score any points against Bama, and the year before that, I mean, Fournette just got stuffed. Because Bama is putting 8 or 9 guys in the box, because they don't even have to worry about the passing game, because it's been atrocious. I mean, they haven't had really any good receivers since Odell Beckham, and I think the Les Miles, what happened with him is he got too far away from the running game at LSU, and that ended up hurting them a lot in the last couple of seasons. I think that's a big reason why he got let go. He had always the defense to compete. I mean, we saw last year against Alabama, he held them to 10 points. But I think Ed Orgeron is going to do a great job as a head coach, and I think there will be even a little bit of an improvement. Heck, they could even finish ahead of Auburn. It's second and third in my opinion, in the SEC West is a toss-up between Auburn and LSU. And also, some people are saying, what about Texas A&M? I think it's going to be kind of the same old for Texas A&M. I think they're going to start off hot. I mean, they'll probably win, their first 6 games, and then they're going to crash and burn as the season goes on down the stretch. That just seems like how it always is for A&M. I mean, we'll see. I hear, but this could be a big year for. This could be a potential a big year for Texas A&M coach. I'm trying to remember his name. Sorry, guys. I can be bad with names at times, so bear with me for 1 second here as I try and remember his name for a second. But as far as everyone else in the West, Ole Miss, of course, we know now they have their sanctions, so they're not. I don't think they're going to be doing much. Mississippi State, maybe with Nick Fitzgerald. They could maybe have a potential upset. I'm not saying necessarily they win the West, but they could have a potential upset. We'll see. They last year, of course, we saw them destroy Texas A&M when Texas A&M was at one point was 4 in the nation, and so they have their moments. And then Arkansas, I don't see it really. I think that it's just going to be kind of like an average year for Arkansas. Maybe about 7-5, 6-6, but we will see. And oh, by the way, it's Kevin Sutherland. I say Kevin Sutherland is going to be on the hot seat for A&M this year. If they don't get 10 wins, I think there may be a chance he'd be trying to go. And actually, I have read a couple reports lately that have been saying that they might try and go after Dabo Swinney if they do let Kevin Sumlin go, which I don't see happening at all. I think Dabo is here to stay at Clemson for a long time. Especially he's built his dream house. His son is going to Clemson. I don't think he would do his family dirty like that after all of that. The only team that I could ever see potentially dragging him away from Clemson is Alabama, and that is because he is an alum from there. But besides that, I don't see it at all. But yeah, that was just a side note. As far as the East and bottom people, I don't think South Carolina is going to do anything again. I think they're maybe going to have an average year. I don't think Muschamp is that great of a coach. Which, I mean, he had all the recruits at Florida he could get. And, I mean, he ended up at one point losing to Georgia Southern. So I don't think, and it was an average year last year. I don't think it will be any better for them. I hear a lot of hype about Jake Bentley. I watched him play against Clemson last year, and he was garbage. I think he will be average at one point. I think he had one good game against Tennessee, who we saw at the end of the year crash and burn as well. So I think that there's no one really. It's just a 3-horse race in the East between Georgia, Florida, and Tennessee. Vanderbilt, they make it a little better. I mean, they were pretty decent last year, of course. They've ended the season 6-7, not terrible. And as far as Kentucky goes, I think they could get a little bit better. I think maybe they'll finish 4th. I mean, I believe it was Mike Stoops, or is it Mark or Mike Stoops is there? One of those two is there as their head coach. He's been building their program up very slowly. I think they haven't been this good. They could maybe have a 2007 season where they maybe potentially have a big upset of the big team. But besides that, though, I don't think they'll do much. And Missouri, I think it's just going to be. I don't think they're going to be any better. Of course, when they first came to the East, and their 2 out of their first 3 years, they made it to the SEC championship game. But I think it's going to be a while before we see them back at the top, in my opinion. But yes, of course, like I said earlier, Alabama versus Georgia in the SEC championship game, and I do think Alabama wins it pretty comfortably and makes it back to the playoff unblemished, in my opinion. If there's any loss, though, that Alabama could have, I think it's probably going to come from Auburn or Florida State in the opener. But it'll be interesting as well, because with these games, though, Florida State head coach Jimbo Fisher is undefeated in openers. However, Alabama head coach Nick Saban is also undefeated in openers. So something's going to give in this awesome game week 1 in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium down in Atlanta. All right, so now also I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to go over the group of 5 conferences specifically, but I'm going to go over a couple of sleepers. My biggest one is USF. Of course, they're I believe the only or the only group of 5 team that's in the top 25 to start the season, and as they should be. They were a very solid team last year. I believe their 2 losses were to, I think, Houston and Florida State, 2 very solid teams, and they ended up being, of course, South Carolina in the Birmingham Bowl. I think Quentin Flowers is the real deal. You could honestly argue that he could maybe be a sleeper for the Heisman pick. I need to watch him play. Of course, I saw him. We watched him a little bit on last Saturday when they played against San Jose State, and it took him a couple of drives to get going. Once he got going, man, that guy was insane. I don't remember why everyone talked about Quentin Flowers so much. He is the real deal, and they have a very easy schedule. Their toughest non-conference opponent is Illinois. Illinois still is terrible. I mean, and the only reason I say tough is because they're only Power 5 school. They play non-conference. I mean, of course, I think they play Houston in conference, but Houston's not going to be the same team they were, or now that Tom Herman is gone. They're going to be still, I think, competitive, but they're not going to be the same. But yes, USF. If there's any team that could go undefeated in the group of 5, my best bet would probably be South Florida. Another one is Troy, and I've heard a lot of people say or some people mention Troy, and I kind of agree with that. I watched them play while holding my breath as they almost upset Clemson in Death Valley last year, and that was a pretty insane game. I mean, wow, it was kind of wow, and of course they ended up the season. They went on, I think, like a 7-game winning streak after the loss to Clemson or 6 or something like that, and then the season 10-3. They'll have an interesting start to the season. They go on the road to Boise State on the blue turf to start the year, so we'll see how good they are in this first game. Now, I've heard a lot of people also say this is another team that, as well, that's getting a lot of hype that I looked into a little bit, and that's Wyoming with Josh Allen at quarterback. I think that he is the real deal. A lot of people I hear saying he'll go top 5, top 10 in the NFL draft. I'll need to watch him play a little bit more to just confirm that, but I think that Wyoming could make a run potentially to win the Mountain West Conference this year. They're of course I believe they beat Boise State last year, and they were at I believe 8-4 or something like that last year, and we'll see how they play as well. They go to Iowa in their season opener, so that'll be very interesting to watch. And I think they also host Oregon as well. So 2 big non-conference games that could really see. If Hawaii wins those, maybe they go 12-0, and maybe they could be the team that makes the New Year's Six if USF slips up somewhere down the road. And another team I'm going to also throw out there is App State. Appalachian State, they're always a team that can give teams fits. I mean, we saw it last year with Tennessee, and we may see that in Week 1 against Georgia. We will see as time goes on. But I think App State is could go 11-1. I think they will lose to Georgia Week 1, but it will be closer than the experts think. But I mean, their schedule is also very easy, and they have done a great job since coming to FBS at being competitive. But we'll see. I think there's a good chance if they could maybe even win out if they somehow pulled off a win against Georgia. You never know. Ever since that win against Michigan back in 2007, never count out Appalachian State. So, by the way, this is the 10-year anniversary of that, and of course that was the biggest upset in my opinion still in sports history. And also I'm going to throw in Boise State in there as well, because even though Chris Peterson is gone, they're still going to be pretty competitive. Never count out Boise State ever. Just because, I feel like they're always making noise down there. I think they're going to build their program back up pretty well, even despite the fact that Chris Peterson is gone. And of course, they have very crazy but good home field advantage in the blue turf as well. But yeah, anyway, those are my sleepers as far as the group of 5s goes. Do I think any of them will make the college football playoff? Probably not. If there was any team that could if they went undefeated, I would say Wyoming, just because they have the best non-conference schedule out of any of those teams. So I think that will could be very interesting for them. So as far as we go to the Heisman, I'm gonna say my Heisman winner, Saquon Barkley out of Penn State. I think everyone has been so hyped about the quarterbacks. What like then another Lamar Jackson won last year. Of course. I mean, Derrick Henry won 2 years ago as a running back, but I think Saquon Barkley is the most exciting player right now to watch in college football besides Lamar Jackson. I don't think Jackson's going to go back to back. I mean, the only person who's won it like 2 in a row was, gosh, I can't remember any of these names right now. No, because, man, I don't even know. It's just a struggle right now. It's hard sometimes when you're up at college to remember everything because you get so much being thrown at you. If there was any, speaking of Ohio State, if there's any player from Ohio State that could win it, it would be J.T. Barrett. Oh, here, Archie Griffin. Duh. Wow. Golly. It's just crazy how much of that stuff gets put in the back of my head. I feel so dumb that I completely forgot about that. But I don't think Lamar Jackson will win it. Another person that I think a lot of people kind of like marked off last year, like after like the earlier in the season, was Baker Mayfield of Oklahoma. I think he is also one of the most dynamic college football players in the country, and he's gonna. I think there's a good chance that if Oklahoma gets into the college football playoff, it will be because of Baker Mayfield's playmaking ability. And then another contender I would say is also Sam Darnold of USC. I mean, I guess I keep saying this whole thing of, I'm not still sure about USC, but I still think Sam Darnold is the real deal. I think compared to when Lane Kiffin had Matt Barkley, Sam Darnold is way better. He can do more with his feet, and he is more elusive, and I think he's just overall going to be a better player. I'm not just necessarily going to say he's going to win the Heisman. I mean, it would be the first time since USC had anyone since Reggie Bush win it. Well, actually, technically no, because he got that strip since Matt Leinart won it. But I do think that he will have still a great season. I hope people know I'm not a USC hater. I'm just still. I need to see them play a couple games just to make sure they aren't going to be like when Lane Kiffin was there when last time they got all hyped up. And another one I will also say in there is Darius Geis from LSU. Of course, he came in with Leonard Fournette because he kept getting injured last year and had a phenomenal year. But the thing is, if he wants to win the Heisman, LSU needs to have somewhat of a passing attack, because if he plays Bama and LSU does not have any sort of passing game, it's going to be just like when Fournette was there. They're going to get loaded up 8 or 9 in the box on defensively, and they're just going to completely stuff him. And it's in also the game, I believe, is in Tuscaloosa this year. So that will LSU really needs to get somewhat of a passing attack under Ed Orgeron, which I think they will. So Darius Guys, definitely don't sleep on him as well. Now there's a couple dark horses I have in here. There's 3. One is Bo Scarborough of Alabama. I mean, I watched Bo Scarborough play in the national championship. I got to go to that somehow. I'm very thankful for that. What an exciting game last year. And the first 2 quarters, he looked like Clemson couldn't stop him. Not at all. I mean, of course, it was who knows how the game would have ended if he hadn't broke his foot or leg or something like that in there. And we'll see how he comes back from that. I think he'll come back fine. He's still a great player. He's huge. I mean, you could obviously say he kind of was like, reminds you of Bo. He's the new Bo Nose as far as great players as far as the running back position in the state of Alabama goes. But my other 2 is Jake Browning of Washington. I think people just don't give Jake Brown the respect he deserves. He had a very phenomenal season last year. I think by the quarterback play though of like Deshaun Watson and Lamar Jackson, I think he just got thrown or just like, where was it? He just was not didn't get the respect he deserved. And if I go back and look at his stats, what was it? They were very good. What was it? Over 3,000 yards, and or at least over 3,000 yards passing, and I think he had one of the higher completion percentages in the country. And of course, he still has a great receiver to throw to in Pettis, even though he doesn't have John Ross anymore to throw to. I think Jake Browning will be in the discussion for the Heisman as the year goes on. I don't think necessarily he will win it, but he's one of my dark horses. And the other one is DeAndre Francois. I think that DeAndre Francois is also very underlooked. Of course, in the ACC, the only reason he was underlooked is because he played in the same division as Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson. Of course, Deshaun Watson's now playing for the Texans on Sundays, but I think that this year, if he has a better offensive line, he can shine. That was the problem for Florida State, in my opinion, last year. That is why they maybe for Louisville, their defense just did not show up for that game. Okay, we all saw that, and that was just, I don't think that will ever happen again under Jimbo Fisher. By the way, ever. I think he will go by to all measures to make sure that doesn't happen again. But I think Jimbo Fisher is a great quarterback coach, and we've seen it with Jameis Winston. And I think that DeAndre Francois, if he has the offensive line, I think he's going to improve a lot from what he did last year. We saw him have some great playmaking abilities. We just saw him just take so many hits, and I think it affected his game some last year. Just of all the hits he took because his offensive line couldn't block worth of crap. But anyway, I think that Francois is going to be a big reason why Florida State wins the ACC championship. Soon, if they do. I'm not going to say it's a done deal because we never count out Clemson and Louisville, but he, in my opinion, he's a great dual threat quarterback though, because he can run and he can get out of the pocket if need be. He just needs an offensive line, hopefully, to protect him for the sake of him, because he takes as many hits as he did last year. He may get stinking paralyzed as far as I'm concerned. Because he says there's only so many shots a guy can take in his life, But last year was just ridiculous. But going back to it, my Heisman winner right now will be Saquon Barkley. Another little dark horse I'm going to throw in there is Nick Chubb from Georgia. We'll see. Also, it's also for me it depends on his offensive line last year, which he did not have, or this year, which he did not have last year. But I think Nick Chubb can I think this is his year that he's going to shine. I think he can maybe be a Heisman finalist. There's some great running backs in the SEC. They may not have the quarterback play still, but they still have some great running backs in there right now. I mean, Nick Chubb is the best running back in my opinion to go through Georgia since Herschel Walker. But we'll see though. We'll see. I still think that Barkley's still gonna win it. I think he's just insane. He's just almost like a monster running back. I think he will also be the next big thing in the NFL as well after Ezekiel Elliott. All right, so now we've got all that out of the way as far as season predictions go. Let's go to Week 1 picks. And there's actually a lot of good games this year. Going back to the past where you might not have had as many big games, maybe had like 2 or 3 or 4. There's a lot of pretty good games out there. I'll start with the one that's coming up on Thursday, and that's Ohio State at Indiana. I think a lot of people are saying this could be a trap game potentially for Ohio State. I personally will disagree with that. I think Ohio State should handle this pretty comfortably. I think Urban Meyer will not let this game happen. I hear a lot of people say that Indiana also is on the rise. I'll believe it. That's one of those where I'll believe it when I see it. Of course, last time Ohio State was in Indiana, Indiana was pretty close to beating Ohio State. Don't get me wrong. It's not like they just got blown out. I mean, it could be one of those situations where they do pull off a Week 1 upset. But I'm still going to say Ohio State by 2 touchdowns. And then of course we have Wyoming and Iowa. I think this game is also one that some people will say, "Oh, why are you talking about this one?" Iowa's still a solid team. Remember, this team last year beat Michigan and handed them their first loss, and they're still a solid team. I think they will win this game because they now know to not sleep on these little teams like this, because we saw what happened last year when North Dakota State came to town and shocked the Hawkeyes after everyone was giving them so much hype because they made it to the Big Ten championship game beforehand. I think that they will win this one, but it will be very close. I think maybe by a field goal or a touchdown they will win this game. But I'm going to go with the Hawkeyes here over Josh Allen and Wyoming. And then also we have Texas A&M at UCLA. Of course, last year that game was a very good game. I'm going to go with Texas A&M because it seems that every year under Kevin Sumlin, the beginning of the year is when Texas A&M seems to start to play their best. And on UCLA, besides Josh Rosen, I really don't know who else they're going to have. They don't have, I don't think, the weapons around him. And this could be also a year that Jim Mora is on the hot seat for them. So, but I'm going to go with A&M because the Rose Bowl is not really much of a home field advantage for UCLA, as I have heard and I've seen from pictures of a lot of their home games. They don't seem to fill it up even from the big games. And there's also the I believe it's the Belk Kickoff Classic in Charlotte, NC State against South Carolina. I gotta pick NC State here. I don't think South Carolina is gonna be much anything this year. I think they'll have anything the same record as last year or go 5-7. And I think NC State could be on the rise. I mean, they've given some teams fits over the last few years. Like, of course, they should have beaten Clemson last year. Thank God their kicker was awful. Otherwise, Clemson might have not been national champions. But I think NC State is going to be if there's a team, it will be the team that finishes fourth in the Atlantic, and they're going to win this game, I believe, by two or three touchdowns over South Carolina. And then there's a big game on Monday, honestly, in the Chick-fil-A, as far as the two Chick-fil-A kickoff games go. So this isn't as big, obviously, as Alabama, Florida State, but Tennessee versus Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech is my team that could be the dark horse to win the ACC Coastal. And I think they will beat Tennessee here in this game, just because Tennessee, unless you go like against the triple option on like a regular basis, you're usually going to have a tough time defending it. And I've seen that with teams time and time again. Like the only team I've seen like be able to defend Georgia Tech's triple option like consistently now has been Clemson, and that's because they play Georgia Tech year in and year out. It's like they're used to this. And Georgia overall as well has done a pretty good job of defending their triple option as well. But I don't think Tennessee will. I think Georgia Tech wins this one by a touchdown and a field goal. But anyway, enough with that. So then we also have the big game in Landover, Maryland, between Virginia Tech and West Virginia. I'm going to go with Virginia Tech here. I think for West Virginia will have this be a close game. I think that Justin Fields and company will be ready to go for this one, and I think Virginia Tech's going to win this one by a touchdown. Now, but then we also have Appalachian State at Georgia, and it's going to be a night game in Athens. I think this one will be closer than the experts think. I've seen that. I believe Georgia is right now at a 14.5-point favorite. I'm going to go Georgia by a field goal, just because we know that App State can give the big teams fits, and we've seen it year in and year out. Of course, last year they came that close to beating Tennessee, like that close. Took them to overtime, and then they all, of course, no one's ever going to forget about them winning the Big House in 2007. And who knows, since it was 10-year anniversary, they could be having a big year. And I expect them to do big things, so I'm going to go with them. And then in the Cowboys Kickoff Classic in Dallas, we have Michigan versus Florida. I think Michigan is going to be the better team here. I just don't think maybe Florida will have enough offensively. Of course, everyone's talking about Malik Zaire. That he could have a big impact on him. I just don't see it. I thought Zaire had just like one good game against the iffy LSU team a couple years back. Besides that, honestly, what has he done? I just don't see it. I think this could also maybe be a hot seat year for McElwain if he doesn't get it going, because he just doesn't have the offense to go with his defense right now. But I think that Michigan's going to win this one by 2 touchdowns, honestly. We're going to be honest. I think Michigan may not have the year they had last year, but I believe they will beat Florida, since this is also a neutral site game. If they were in the Swamp, though, I might go with Florida, because Swamp is a very tough place to play, as teams have found out over the years. BYU at LSU in Houston. This one, I don't even know right now if it's going to even be in Houston. Of course, as I said earlier, prayers go out to all the victims of the flooding out there from Hurricane Harvey. I heard this game could be potentially go to New Orleans. I hear it potentially could go to Baton Rouge, but no matter where it is, I think LSU is going to win this one pretty comfortably. After watching BYU play last week, I don't think they might not be able even to put up a fight for like maybe even the first half. I think LSU is going to run all over them with Darius Geis, and I'll be interested to see how their passing attack goes for LSU as well. But I think LSU wins this game by maybe 4 touchdowns. I don't think it's going to be close at all. I think BYU has got their work cut out for them. They want to go ahead and try and beat the Tigers. And here's another one before we get to the big. There's 2 other games I want to talk about before this. Troy at Boise State. Of course, I said Troy could be a sleeper this year. I don't think they'll win because I think the Blue Turf's gonna, be in Boise's favor, and that's gonna be a big reason they win. I think the Boise will win this one, but look out though for Troy in this game. They could win by potentially by a touch, or win this one maybe a last-second field goal. We'll see though on the Blue Turf. And then also, here's my one upset alert. I'm not going to say this one necessarily is going to happen, but I will say this game could be more interesting than people think. Underlooking this game, Georgia Southern at Auburn. I mean, people are going, Georgia Southern? Why Georgia Southern? I mean, I don't know if y'all remember, but Georgia Southern, like Appalachian State, has given a lot of teams fits. I mean, of course, they've gone into the swamp and beat Florida, and they came so close to beating Georgia 2 years ago, and they've given Alabama fits in the games they've played them as well. So I think people are honestly sleeping on Georgia. So I think this last year they had a kind of a 5-17. I think this is the year they bounce back and have a pretty good year. I think they'll finish second in the Sun Belt behind Appalachian State, but look out. Auburn needs to be on the lookout here because this isn't the kind of offense that they play on a regular basis. This is a very strange triple option that they play. It's a very spread one from the gun. It'll be very interesting, but look out for don't be surprised though if Georgia Southern upsets Auburn this week. All right, now we're gonna go to the big one: Florida State versus Alabama in the Chick-fil-A kickoff game in Atlanta. Of course, College Game Day is gonna be there, and everyone's really excited about this one. I'm gonna be watching this one very closely because, I mean, this is the highest two teams to play ever in like an opening week of the season. In my opinion, Florida State should have been 2, but no, it didn't turn out that way. So anyway, in my opinion, though, that Florida State is going to make this game closer than the experts think. I think a lot of people are writing them off. But also, like I said earlier, it's going to be depending a lot on how their offensive line plays. If their offensive line does not show up, it could be a tough night for DeAndre Francois Company, and Bama will run them out of the building or out of the new Falcon Stadium. But if it's not that case, though, I think Florida State makes this game close the whole game. I think there's a good chance they could win by a field goal. But in all honesty, I have to go with Alabama. You really can't go against them right now under Saban. Of course, even though both of the head coaches are undefeated in season openers, something's going to have to give. And I think Nick Saban's just going to be ready to go for this one. I think the defense will get after DeAndre Francois. And I think Alabama's going to win by a touchdown and a field goal, personally. I don't think it will be as big of a blow as the experts think. I think actually it'll be overall still a close game, but I just don't think that Florida State will be able to contain Alabama's defensive line. Even though they lost a lot of players from that defensive line last year, they're gonna be ready and reloaded to go. We all know how Nick Saban goes in defense. Like, that is always his top priority, and they'll be ready to go. So that's it, guys. That is it for this first ever episode of the Kos Sports Show. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you guys haven't already, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. I really do appreciate you all coming in to check this out. And if you have any questions questions for me, feel free to post them in this video below. I would love to answer them. I'm planning on doing kind of like a mailbag kind of thing next week. I just didn't do it this week just because this was kind of like thought off the spot that I would do this. But I hope you all enjoyed it. And if you have any differences from my opinions, feel free to comment below, and I will honestly listen to them, and I'd love to comment with you about them because I love talking about college football in general, and I'm just so excited for college football to be back. Like, y'all don't understand. I've been waiting for college football ever since that national championship game ended. That just left me just so excited. I was just like, dang it. I mean, of course, I was so happy for me being a current Clemson student. I was just getting to see that game. That was incredible, and I'm hoping this year can be just as exciting. Even though I don't think Clemson's going to win a national championship, you never know. You never know that if their offense gets together, we'll see. But I'm just so excited for this season, though. And once again, thank you guys for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Be sure to give this thing a like, and hope you all have a great day. And I will see you guys around. And don't forget, of course, after Monday night, as soon as the Georgia Tech Tennessee game is over, I will be posting the Week 1 highlights vid. So be sure to be ready to come back and check that out as well. Hope you all have a great day and enjoy watching college football this week.